Intro on that one. All right, here we go. We are going to be live in 3, 2, 1. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Cellar 13 Films, Chips, Dips, Films, and Scripts. And my special guest tonight is Elise Marie Hodge. And Elise owns EMH Productions. Now, EMH Productions is a multifaceted company that deals with a complete plethora of things in a tiny little realm of film and theater. She has produced, directed, acted, written, casted for the stage and film, as well as web content. So this lady right here is a jack of all trades and a master of every single one of them. And
I'm trying to be.
yeah. So today we are going to be talking about not only her career. We're going to be talking about one of the things that I am excited about, and not just because I'm in it, but because it's a freaking awesome story. It is a play called Fragile Things. We will get into that momentarily, but everyone that is tuning in, I see you guys right now. Welcome to the show. I want to let you guys know we are on every single Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific. We are on the Edge Radio US. We are on iHeartRadio. We are on TuneIn Radio. As soon as we get a few more subscribers on YouTube, because YouTube does their funky little thing to where they're kind of being the internet mafia about how they're doing things. We're going to be going live so people on their smart TVs could watch us on TV.
Nice.
And that is going to be great. We've got Joshua T. Berglund. What's up, my friends? He, fellow Oklahoma Sooner. What's up, brother? Joshua T. Berglund does a show on the network called Morning Gratitude every morning at 9 o'clock. So I just want to give a few shout-outs. Renegade Racing Fuel. They are a sponsor on Johnny Blender's show every Wednesday. Whiskey, Cars, and Cigars. Lynn Seal Gibson has a show, The Southern Horror Queen. That is on every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central. I always get Central screwed up because I'm always used to West Coast, East Coast time. But it's an exciting show tonight because I love bringing people into the studio to where we can have dialogue face-to-face. Now, there's nothing better than face-to-face dialogue, in my opinion. And now, as far as let's kind of jump in the DeLorean here. Let's step back in the time machine.
Okay.
Now, when you first got into film and or theater, whichever came first, what was the catalyst that put a little seed in your brain and you're like, this is something I really think I could enjoy?
Wow. So I didn't start any of this at all until I was close to 30. So it's been an interesting journey even getting to that point in my life. But I really was floundering. I was trying to figure out what to do with myself. And honestly, it was something I heard on the radio about acting classes. And I thought, oh, well, I've always wanted to do that. I will jump in there.
Right.
And that led to, a series of events that just, it's one of these things where one door opens, so you walk through that door, and then the next one, and the next one. Eventually, maybe about a year later, I was driving to and from LA to really understand the entertainment business and what that was all about and where I might fit in with all of it. And throughout all the adventures I've had, it just became really clear that I kind of like all of it. That I'm not somebody who focuses on one particular aspect like this is my life. It's the whole package. So that's when I started my own company, and so that I could put myself out there in all capacities. So.
Real quick, Allison Finn, welcome to the show.
Hi,
Matthew, welcome to the show, brother. Now, when you started your company, now, I mean, I know what it means, but how did you come up with the name I mean, it's simple if you think about it, but people watching don't know. Yeah. EMH Productions. Yeah. How'd you come up with it?
And again, it is just my name. It's Elise Marie Hodge. But I wanted to, at that point I was like, well, if I'm going to do everything, then the name of the company should reflect my names. That's where it came from. But over time, what's been fun about it is playing with those particular letters and coming up with words that identify what it is that I think I'm doing as an artist, which is being emotional, which is being, humorous, which is being moving, which is, and I use all those words a lot of the time when I'm advertising or that sort of stuff with the company. So, but I think there's a lot of wonderful words that start with those 3 letters and that pertain to entertainment. So.
Okay, and I also want to encourage everybody that's watching. You could ask us questions on Facebook. You could Facebook message me if you want to. So on that note, when you decided that, you know what, kind of like an oak tree, and most trees got many different limbs on it and branches, and you like all aspect of film and theater, which is, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, obviously, but was there anyone in your career path that said, Elise, you need to pick one thing, and you need to concentrate on that one thing and do it really good?
No. Oddly, no one's ever said to me, there's only one thing you need to do.
That's good.
And I think that's wonderful because, you do not want to stifle yourself as an artist. You just don't. And when I have the opportunity, that's when I was talking about how, this door opened and that door, and I've had all these adventures. That's what all of that has been for me, is this big, huge adventure of walking through the door that opens and saying, okay, what can I learn from this experience, and what can I take away to stick in my toolbox to, use on another project down the road where I can hopefully get paid.
Right. That's always the fun part. Yeah, we see a lot of likes up there. Hey, we got Tabitha. Welcome to the show, Tabitha. We will see you tomorrow morning, I'm sure. So, the very first production that you did, and let's go the first theater production, and then let's move to the film production.
Sure.
So let's talk about the first thing you ever did.
The first theater show I ever worked on was, it wasn't something I produced. It was me joining a theater company in LA, the Theater 68 crew. It's the 68 Cent crew in Los Angeles. And they were doing a play, Bill W. and Dr. Bob. And that is about the people who founded AA.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was running their lights and sound for them. Actually, I was concentrating more. They got someone to run one side, and I was running their sound for them through the show. And I started jumping in and doing little things for the actors, and, just to be helpful. And at some point, somebody was like, you're doing a stage manager's job. I was like, oh, I am? I didn't know this. Because a lot of times when you're in community theater in particular, you're doing lots of different jobs without realizing you're doing all these different jobs.
Right.
Because there's no one else to do them.
Right.
So you just sort of jump in, and that's what I was doing, was just jumping in and being like, well, I'll just take care of these things for you guys so you guys can be actors. And I learned so much from that very first experience just about what goes on behind the stage, and it was such an amazing experience from that perspective. That play runs on and off with the 68 Cent crew. Periodically they do it, they bring it back and revive it because it is such a popular show. So, and it's very, very moving. It is certainly... It certainly packs the houses because so many people, it means so much to them, these people who started, this whole AA program. So, yeah.
So, do you find it that, and we're going to talk a little bit later about the lack of a better word, division, the gap, the whatever you want to call it, between theater people, and then film and film people. So we'll get in that in a minute. We'll put that up on the shelf. So when you got into this, powerful story, your mind is racing on things. So now you're thinking, I would like to do this. I'd like to produce and direct and do my own thing. What was the first one that you did all completely yourself?
The first show that I ever produced all on my own was here in Sacramento, and it was called My Fellow Creatures. It was an extremely dark drama. It was about a man who is in jail because he's a pedophile. And a new person becomes introduced into that part of the cell block, because they do have to keep them separated out. And as time goes on, it's this young man, and as time goes on, it becomes revealed that this young man is actually the person that he molested all those years ago. So this person has now also become a child molester. So it was a very, very intense story. It all takes place, of course, in the prison, in the jail cell. And it's 3 characters. It's Arthur, who is the main, the pedophile, and then Kelly, who is the young man that becomes part of, is now being put in jail for the same reason, and then the prison guard. And you watch this whole thing develop, and you watch Arthur come to the realization that he's created this whole idea in his brain that what went on was a love story. That he was in love, that he was madly, madly in love. And when Kelly finally confronts him and says, I've missed you and I still love you, why can't we be together? Now we're here in jail together, there's no reason for us not even to be together, why can't we be together? And it's at that point that Arthur finally realizes that he is in fact a pedophile. And the first time he really admits it, It's a pretty dark story.
That's okay.
Dark story.
That is okay. Real quick, Ryan Adams, what's up, brother? Ryan, if I'm correct, you're still in L.A., tuning in from L.A. Thanks for tuning in, brother. We've got Gabriel Sasana, who is the one of the owners of Two Fools Productions, and I was in his film, gonna plug it, The Wretched. It's a freaking, it's pretty cool. I like it. And anyway, thanks for tuning in. Dark. The story, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it is a story that people shy away from. They don't want to see or hear about and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, did you get backlash on that at all?
Not from the audiences. I know that the person who came to see the show, that was our reviewer, did not appreciate the play a whole lot. But our audiences actually responded really positively to the play, in that it brought up, it opened the door to conversation. As you just said, it's a topic no one wants to discuss. And I was just so impacted by the experience. I ended up doing a PSA from it to try and put the word out there a little bit more in terms of. The Playwrite is from Canada,
right? And
in all of my research, it became very clear that Canada's actually done some very fascinating research about the mind of a pedophile and genetically, and how it's genetically involved, and all these sorts of other things that have, there's all kinds of things involved with it, but how they're actually trying to help the people who are the perpetrators, because that's the root of the problem. We are making the perpetrators hide. Right. So then we have more victims. And it was stunning to me how many people felt the same way, but how many of those people were also victims themselves.
Wow.
So it really opened my eyes up in ways I'd never anticipated. And I was trying to share that experience as much as I could with audiences. And like I said, I ended up doing some PSA work with it and
nice.
Getting it out there. Yeah. So it was pretty impactful.
Steve, if I say your name correctly, brother, I hope I do, Pappa now. Had an absolute blast as a stage manager for a small theater in Bend, Oregon.
Oh, nice.
In the mid-'90s. Great opportunity to learn so much.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I feel personally that most people that go to a live theater event have an appreciation for the arts.
Yes.
So no matter what the subject matter is, even if it's taboo, they can appreciate the artistic value of that.
Yeah.
Most of your backlash, I'm sure, was beyond that, but it is something that, if you think of, most people that I talk to that have talked about pedophilia over the years, their first thing that they want to do, they want to kill them, they want to put them on an island, they want to do whatever it is.
Yes.
So Canada takes a different, or the individual.
At least the research that I came across, yes, they are taking a different approach with it, and they do seem to have some very forward-thinking research going into it, and it was very encouraging to see what they've been doing at the time. And this has been 7 years ago now, and that this project started up, and I have been in recent history been approached to maybe come back to it a little bit, and so I want to jump back in and see kind of where they are now with everything that was going on at the time. So. Yeah.
So, 2 things, positive, negative.
Yeah.
What is the most negative thing that was said to you by someone about that play?
Most negative thing. So, it's funny. There was nothing ever said directly to me. It was mostly, I think the biggest question was I could just see how uncomfortable they were, and it was like, why would you do this show? Why would you do this play? And, the response from me has always been in anything that I've picked is that I think that there's something impactful and there's something to be said and there's a conversation that could be had from this particular, material.
Absolutely. I mean, Michael Thompson says, forward thinking at its best. Matthew says, theater and film should move the audience no matter what the subject matter.
Yeah.
So we're gonna ping pong a little bit, folks, back and forth. Speaking of high emotion, speaking of a dramatic and a play that will give you a roller coaster of emotion as an audience member, and I think even more so as one of the actors in there. You may not see this too clearly, but this is the book I use that has the script in it. The play is called Fragile Things. And we are, I'm not going to talk too much about it. I'll let her say whatever she wants to say about it.
No.
So we are in, we're doing rehearsal and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it is, even though that it's highly emotional and it presses some very intricate buttons, it is a play. First off, I implore you guys, if you haven't already done so, I'm going to put the link on the bottom of this in the subject matter here as the show's going, and then afterwards I'm going to put the link. Get your tickets now because they're going to sell out quickly. This is a play, and again, I have no reason to brown nose anybody, and I am not saying it just because I'm in it. I'm saying it's a freaking good play, and it's powerful. I'm getting chills just talking about it right now. So, Elise, Fragile Things.
Yes.
Where'd the story come from?
A couple of different things. Part of it is, based in certain ways on my own experience. There is someone in my life that did take his life that was a very dear friend of mine. He was one of my best friends, and I missed seeing it, and that has always certainly bothered me when you don't see that someone's hurting and then you're not there for them. But on the flip side of that also being that you can't, someone who's experiencing that depth of depression and anxiety and that need to take their own life, in some ways there's nothing you can do for them, and that other than to let them know that they are loved and that they are cared for, and that you hope that you are there to help them get help, hopefully, if they're willing. But they have to be willing to get the help.
Yes.
So there is that part of it. And then just in my own personal life, I've certainly dealt with my own levels of depression and anxiety and etc. So there's all of that personal quality to it. And then I've had a lot of military friends over the years, and they've all talked about certain experiences they've had, Iraq, Afghanistan, etc.
Yeah.
And I've combined some of their stories to create the character Tyler, who's struggling with PTSD. Because I think, and in some ways, you're going to start to see a theme here. Now we're talking about pedophilia, now we're talking about PTSD.
There you go. And it only gets better from here.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not dark and dramatic at all. It's simply that I find that mental issues, however you want to color that, however you want, whatever you want to put those things in terms of category, we're still struggling as a society to figure out how to deal with mental issues.
Yeah.
On so many levels and in so many ways. And knowing that, it's like, well, we just need to keep having the conversations. And so this is another way to spark the conversation. And I mean, to me, it was also realizing how many of these people that I've become friends with and known are not getting the help they do need. And that frustrates me a lot. Is it not available to them? Is it just not being offered to them? Is it something they're refusing to take? There's all different kinds of reasons. But, the more we can talk about it and the more we can try to continue to talk about it, hopefully we'll find solutions, or at least better solutions than the ones we currently have.
Absolutely. I put the link up there, and the always gorgeous Eric Craig, a.k.a. Tyler.
Hi, Tyler.
Is the little thumbnail on there, so hit that. Allison Finn says, As one of the actors, it is quite intense. Castmates, all extremely talented, along with the director, writer, awesome collaboration of talent all around.
Oh, thanks, Al.
Melissa Warren says, yes, especially with depression and anxiety. She also says, it's the stigma. I would be hesitant towards seeing a psychiatrist with my depression constantly. Never wanted to take any pills.
Yeah.
Now,
I get that.
again, and I know you talked about, you touched on it a little bit, but two questions. It obviously you're pulling from true aspects of your life, but when you expose stories of others that are in your life that you're pulling from to put into this play, how is that affecting you and affecting them?
Yeah, it's really it's tough because especially when you're trying to tell your own story and it's so closely tied to my husband, who, you know, he has his own set of things that he deals with, and I don't wish to expose things without permission, but ultimately the story comes from my experience and what it's like to be on my side of that experience. So hopefully people get that and see that. And, you know, I mean, we certainly had conversations about things I said I wanted to talk about. And it was like, well, it's your story. And that in the end is, I think, where we came to with it was like, well, this is your side of it. This is your experience of what it's like to be dealing with not only your own depression, but maybe, you know, your spouse's, and where all of that, you know, falls into play and how it affects you.
Right.
So, because I think that's also something that oftentimes is not talked about as often, is how affecting it is to the loved one of a person who's going through a suicidal issue. It's so hard to be the one standing there watching that person suffer and know that there's nothing you can really do other than continue to be there for them. And that's really where Jocelyn, the female character in this, that's where she's coming from. It's just this constant struggle of, I love my spouse, but I don't know all the time how much I can take, you know, and that can get really tough. And I'm hoping to give voice to that side of the issue as well.
Yeah, as you're talking, I could hear, you know, some dialogue in my head about all this stuff going on. But, and it is, Melissa, on your thing, don't want to take any pills. Absolutely, because when I've gone to talk to people, especially like the bad thing about the military that I will say, and what makes me mad, is when you're out, whether you're honorably discharged or not, when you're out, you're done. Yes, they have VA hospitals, yes, they have that, but honestly, speaking from experience, they just don't give a shit. And about a lot of things. And then they'll be like, take this pill, take this pill. The two favorite ones that they like to give is Seroquel, which turns you into a freaking zombie, or lithium.
Oh, God.
And then when they go, well, it could cause suicidal thoughts and this and that. Oh, great, thank you. Or if you don't take them, you know, specifically in this and that, you could die. So why would you want to take something where you could die?
Yeah.
So all these emotions come running through, and then you don't have anyone to talk to. You don't want to talk to anybody.
That's the other piece. You don't want to talk to
exactly
anyone because it's so painful. It's so hard, whatever it is you're experiencing. Yeah.
Fragile Things. How hard emotionally? Because what is it? 93 pages.
About, yeah.
How hard was that? Because it's so personal for you.
Yeah.
How hard is it for you? What was it for you to write it? You're living it as you're writing it.
Yes. I mean, I've even found doing rehearsals this time around. We did a workshop of it a few years ago. It's already been almost it'll be 3 years in March, when I was in LA. We did a workshop of it where I did play the lead character Jocelyn, and you know, looking back on that time and then looking at it now and also looking at the writing of it and everything, it's a lot easier now to be the writer than it was initially. I feel like I can come back to it now with a little bit less anxiety and less heartache and less hardship because it's been a few years. But at the time, I know it certainly was very difficult to go through the process. But I had things I specifically wanted to say, and I wanted to say them as clearly as I could. And from that perspective, it wasn't hard at all. I had things I wanted to make sure got out there.
Well, Allison says, Stigma, there is a great analogy for mental pain by Guy Winch. Is it Guy or Guy? I don't know if he's French. But anyway, on how society sees it, he says we learn to care for our physical body, but not emotional needs. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't tell someone with a broken leg, walk it off.
Right.
Why then is it commonplace to tell people with depression, get over it?
Yeah.
Melissa says, so proud of you for being vulnerable, Elise. Mm-hmm. This is such an important topic. I'm sure I missed this. Ha ha, when does it open? No, you didn't know.
You didn't miss it.
You didn't miss it. You didn't miss it. Melissa, 4 comments down, there's the link to where you can go and you can read some about the show, but most importantly, it's got the little button for the tickets.
Yes.
And Brianna says, hi, Glenn and Elise.
Hi, Brianna.
Hello, Diaz.
Yes, she plays Diaz in the play, yes.
So, now, Melissa says, oh, yay. Now, here's what I want you guys to do. This show opens
March 2nd.
And tell them the dates of the show.
Sure. We're running for 3 weekends, so there's only 6 performances. We are doing March 2nd and 3rd, which is Friday, Saturday. The following weekend, the 9th and... Wait, I'm getting it wrong. 9th and 10th, right? Yes. 9th and 10th. Okay.
Yes.
But then the closing weekend, we are doing Thursday, Friday instead of Friday, Saturday. So it's the 15th and 16th. So 2nd and 3rd, 9th and 10th, 15th and 16th. Those 6 times.
So here's what I want you guys to do. Everybody out there watching and everyone listening on iHeartRadio and iTunes. Tune in, excuse me. I want you to go to the link. Not only do I want you guys to get your tickets, but I want you to tell your friends and your family, anyone that you think, more importantly, anyone that you think that might be going through some emotional stages such as this, they need to see this play. I am not even kidding. Because when it comes to mental health, everyone is different and everyone reacts different. When it comes to grief, it is an individual process.
Yeah.
Like me, some people have, the past couple of weeks, called me choice names because my best friend and business partner passed away January 5th after this very show. The very next day, I was at her house doing a read-through of this thing.
Yep.
The emotions going everywhere, but see, I have not dealt with that yet. And people are like, you're so mean, you didn't like him, you didn't care about him, you're not even grieving. I am inside deep, but I don't even want to right now. I seriously don't want to. And, but I do, and I'm transparent. You guys know that watch. I see a counselor once a week for certain things, and sometimes twice. I've talked to him about this play extensively since I got into it. And the thing that he said to me this past Wednesday is, because I told him, and it's not a bad thing when I say this, when I'm done rehearsing, it takes me about 2 hours to come down off. I come home. I usually put on a stand-up comedian Joe Coy because it's funny, it's ha-ha, and it's just like.
Yeah.
But he says, get a lifeline. Lifeline meaning someone to talk to. If the lifeline is a comedy show or whatever, to bring yourself, because sometimes as actors, we get so wrapped up. Because I've been doing a lot of research on. I believe it was. It was either Lindsay or Allison, one of the two, said to watch Cake with Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah.
So I did watch that. I've been watching many films like that. So I wrap myself around that. And then with my own stuff that I'm dealing with, I dive into that. And sometimes as actors, we can't necessarily surface and get out of that too quickly. So being experienced in that, you are the one that wrote this and you've been in the play and you've done things. How would you explain to people, especially with a play of this magnitude and this subject matter, to break away from the character and break away from the subject matter for a breather?
That exactly what you were talking about. It's go do something that you really love, that you enjoy, that you get positive energy out of. Watch funny things. read funny things. Make sure to do things that are very positive for you to experience, because it has to counterbalance. And I mean, I know I even mentioned this at one point during rehearsal. I commented to everyone, I was like, look, I know that the subject matter is very deeply intense, because it's not only talking about PTSD and it's talking about suicide, it's talking about the fact that Tyler he's having problems specifically with the person that died in a firefight, and he feels responsible. He feels so guilty, and he's grieving. Whereas for Jocelyn, she's definitely, suffered from the loss of her best friend who has died, but she's now still in the grieving process of trying to deal with her own husband and her own issues. So there's a lot of different things going on about guilt and grief and all these mental illness and all this wrapped into a little thing.
Nice little bow.
Nice little bow. I don't know if it's a nice little bow or not.
Yeah, it's a black bow.
Yeah, something like that. So, but I mentioned to everybody, look, I know I'm not your therapist, neither is our director. However, if you are starting to have issues of any kind, you need to talk to us so that we can address them and make sure that we're not, causing more issues for you, and that you're making sure that you're finding, again, those positive things to go do when you're done with rehearsal or before rehearsal, or whenever you can fit them in to sort of counterbalance the weight of what it is to be these characters. So
now, when you played Jocelyn in the play, how did you feel emotionally doing the play? Was it therapy for you at any point?
Definitely. At certain points in time, most certainly, because I was really getting to say the things that had bothered me, the things that had so impacted me, and the things that I often heard other people say to me about, a multitude, you should just walk away from your husband, or why aren't you more there for your husband, or why aren't you more there for yourself, or, it certainly was a form of therapy. And I think writing has always been that for me. It's not true for every writer, and it's not true for everything I've ever written. But I certainly, when I'm talking about something that I think is impactful, it is a little bit, because I have something to say. And when you do, there's a little bit of therapy involved.
Yeah.
And to me, it's not even there. To me, I don't like to necessarily attach the word therapy, more the word catharsis.
Okay.
It allows you to have that moment of I've said my piece.
Okay.
So, right. and I think that's also a form of therapy.
Kind of closure.
Yeah, closure is a great word, for sure.
Allison says, I do guided meditation daily for peace of mind.
Yes, meditation's a great thing.
Actually, before the show today, before she got here, I was listening to kind of like Glenn Miller music, kind of like, it just kind of set me back. And when my mom came to pick up my son, she was like, "Oh, that's good dancing music," and so it just kind of put me in a kind of even keel, a nice little mood, if you will, because I knew the subject matter that we were going to be talking about tonight, and again, PTSD and depression and mental illness and all that, we're now just starting, if you think about the history of it, to identify certain things. Mm-hmm. So for what people were back then, they just kind of sloughed them off and be like, oh, you just go do your thing, you're just crazy or whatever. Mm-hmm. Or kind of like some people say, well, just walk away.
Right.
Just walk away. That's not the answer. But why do you think the stigma around mental illness, PTSD and such, suicide, depression, all of that, why do you think people put such a stigma, society, around those subject matters? Why do they just want to put them on the shelf and forget about it?
That's a great question. I can't help but think that it is so much about how we view what a strong person is, what it means to be strong,
okay,
what it means to be healthy, what it means to be a whole person. I feel like all those things are part of deciding that, well, if there's something wrong with you, then instantly it is, it's mental illness and there's something wrong with you. Well, if you watch the increase of at least what we're labeling mental illness, which in and of itself is a little frustrating to me, because I'm starting to feel like everybody then has mental illness. Like, everybody has mental illness. We're all mentally, we're all mentally ill. Are we? Or are we all just different levels of trying to deal with life? And instead of calling it, I feel like there's a fine line between if it's an illness, then we need to find treatment. And why aren't we treating that the same way we would cancer?
There you go.
But we're not doing that. What we're doing is we're saying, oh, but because it's mental, somehow that's a separate category and you should be able to figure that out yourself because it's in your own head and it's not tangible. It's not something I can actually see. I can't see that you're sick. I can't see that that your leg is broken. Whatever the case may be. I can't see it, so I don't know how to address it. And I think as long as we continue with that thought process societally, we're going to continue to put it on a shelf because we don't. It's like that, you fear the thing you don't understand kind of a concept. And I also think it's also, this is something, and I don't know how well this really ties in. It just strikes me. When you're trying to figure out how to put food on your table, the last thing you can afford to do is figure out why you're sad with your life. You don't have time to be mentally unhealthy. You're trying to put food on your table, right? So I still think that's another reason it goes up on a shelf, because somehow it's still being divided out as not being part of your daily health. It's, oh, well, that's just in my head, so that must mean it doesn't count. That must mean I don't need to deal with it. I have these other very tangible things right in front of me that I have to deal with. This other thing that's just in my head somewhere, that goes on the shelf. And I feel like it's an epidemic in this country because there are so many people who are trying to just put food on their table.
Absolutely. And we are getting some great comments, folks. I really appreciate you guys commenting. Brianna says, I believe it because you can't see mental damage. The stigma stems from the military and the demands of having bearing and discipline, show no pain.
Right.
Brianna is Calvert is a military personnel, so and they do. It's like suck it up, feel no pain, be a man, whatever.
Yeah.
And she's a woman, but I mean,
Brianna, tell us really quick, if you wouldn't mind putting in the news. Please tell me again, because I know you're in human resources. Can you tell me your title and what? Because that would be really amazing. I'd love to share that if you're okay with that.
Yes.
So only if you're okay with that. Okay. All right. Continue.
Yes. Allison says there are receptors in the brain that can actually keep you depressed. You release hormones when happy and when sad. Over time, the receptors will actually change shape to only accept hormones it's been receiving most often.
Yeah.
So if you're constantly sad, your brain actually makes it harder to receive good feelings.
Yeah.
So
that's very true.
That reminds me of she's a personalist. Okay, that
works for me.
So a chief was asked one time, a Native American chief, there's two wolves. You got the, basically for that you're feeding in your brain, the happy, the sad, the mean, whatever you want to call it. And they go, which one wins? And he goes, whichever one you feed the most. Which kind of triggers what Allison just said. Yeah. When you feed those emotions, that's what you're getting to satiate yourself. And it's sad that it becomes harder to receive good feelings. And what upsets me, and I'm going to go back to the whole peel thing, that's why I like, when I was over in Asia, that's why I like Asia, because they're holistic medicine.
Yeah.
And even like Buddhists and Taoists and all that, they are holistic. They don't just pop a pill in you and be like, hey, see me next week.
Right.
So dealing with more emotions, and some of the emotions that are they're in fragile things here. Real quick, before we go into the next question, why don't you go ahead and plug where people, could follow you, whether in any social media, and then say any plug that you want directing towards Fragile Things.
Sure. All right. Well, you can always find me on Facebook, either under my name, Elise Hodge. I also have a page, EMH Theater. You can always find any of my theater productions listed there. And then I have also an EMH Productions page on Facebook as well, where you can follow if I'm doing other projects such as film or internet content or anything else that's been coming up, casting, that sort of thing. So those are the 3 places you can find me, but they all are based on Facebook. And then there's my website, which is EMHPros, P-R-O-S, as in productions, .weebly, it's a Weebly site.com, W-E-E-B-L-Y. So you can find tickets there, you can find out more about me, you can find out about the projects I've done in the past, all of that is there on my site. So.
All right, well, welcome to the show, Casey Spears. On that note, we're halfway through. If everyone that's watching right now, tell me where you're watching from. If you're intact, tell me wherever you're at in the United States or wherever, tell us where you're watching from. I'm always curious. Allison says, I actually had to take antidepressants and I am very anti-pill. Yeah. I had a major chronic back pain and they alleviated the pain and helped me with energy. I needed to deal with the emotional and quality of life issues.
Yeah. And I mean, it is very true. For some people, antidepressants can be incredibly helpful. It's not for every person, but it can be, it does help people. And I can only encourage people to find the thing that does work for them, whatever the answer, and it will take you time to find that thing. I think that's the hardest part about the process of mental illness, is because it is so individual. What works for you is not going to work for the person sitting next to you. And that is certainly, a tough thing about all the different facets of trying to deal with anxiety and depression and PTSD, et cetera, and all the other So, but yeah, and Allison, just really quick, I know you mentioned talking about meditation. That's another thing about meditation. There are all kinds of meditation you can do out there. A lot of people think it is just sitting somewhere in a corner going, No. For me, meditation in the morning is an hour sitting with a word puzzle, because it helps me just focus myself for the day. I sit there and do word puzzles for an hour, because that, for me, is what helps get me going in the morning. So that's my meditation.
Now, when people are dealing with emotions, and we'll just say, one of the first things that I learned when I was in college in Psychology 101, I call it the 3 monkey story. You've got monkeys in a cage. You got 2 monkeys in a cage. You got 1 monkey and a paper mache monkey in a separate cage. And then you have a monkey by itself in a separate cage. Well, the 2 monkeys in the cage, fine. The monkey with the paper mache monkey, fine. The monkey by itself ends up dying. We all need interaction. Yeah. Humans, animals, whatever. We all need touch. We all need affection. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times, people associate affection with sex.
Yes.
So why do you think that, if someone just simply wants affection, simply wants human interaction, why do you think people automatically go, oh, they just want to have sex with them, or they just want to, whatever?
Because affection and the way we have equated affection and intimacy with others is usually in a sexual way. It's always about, oh, you want to date them, oh, you want to see them, oh, you want to be with them. There's always something romantic attached to it. And I mean, I think it's unfortunate how much we miss in our friendships with people, both male and female, whether it's, and I know there's so many different multifaceted ways that people interact in the gender world. It's no matter what it is, if you are attracted to another person in any sort of sexual way, immediately, just because you want to be friends with them does not mean that you want to have sex with them.
There you go.
But you maybe want to be intimate with them in a certain way. And that intimacy can be emotional intimacy. And we don't put enough, I feel like, allowance on exploring what it means to be truly friends with another human being. And I think that's really unfortunate. And that's something the play touches on as well.
I just put the link on again, folks, for you guys to hit and go check out the show and get tickets for the show. Yeah, she wrote and mentions in the play some of the aspects that she is talking about. Brianna says, warped, the thought of people needing connection without sex. Society is perverted. It is. It's like I used to hang out with a friend of mine a lot, and he is male. And we hang out quite a bit. And then people are like, well, are you gay? No. Why do you ask I'm gay? Well, you're hanging out with X over here all the time, and guys, whatever. Doesn't make me freaking gay. And, well, the person I hang out with happened to be gay, and doesn't make you gay. Just because I hang out with a female doesn't mean I'm having sex or want to have sex or whatever. There's a girl that, her name is, that's not her real name, but she goes by Roach. She's from Boston, Massachusetts. She is a football freak. And I heard her one time in a pub, and she goes, I can't find me a man that likes football. And I'm like, well, you just met him. We have watched football for 2 years now at the Blarney Stone in Orangeville.
Nice.
We never even, other than a high five and maybe a hug goodbye, that's the only affection we've ever had. No making out, no kissing, no backseat sex. She's a bro. I'm her bro. We're football bros.
Right.
And that is exactly, Brianna says, platonic. Why can't, you know, I'm not going to say the line, but it just brings back the line in here that, you know, that people think just because you're with this person for more than 1 or 2 times that you guys are romantically inclined.
Yes. Well, and I think also people read into attraction, though, because there is, when you make friends with somebody, you are attracted to them. There's something about them that attracts you. So why does it always have to be something sexual? Or if it is a sexual attraction, why does it mean you're going to do something about it? Why does it have to mean you're going to do something about it? Why aren't we capable of separating and saying, you know what, that's not what I want with this person. I actually want to be friends with this person. I don't need this other aspect. I may have it, I may be cognizant of it, but that doesn't mean it's not relevant to what I actually want or need from this person in my life. And I think we don't spend enough time figuring that out as well. You know? Does that make sense?
It makes absolutely sense. Now, Fragile Things is not the only thing you have going on. So let's step back a couple weeks ago to the one you're directing.
Yes,
and
that's still going on.
So briefly talk about that one.
So I've been, I was working with community theater, Big Idea Theater. A lot of people know them. And Becky Shaw is the name of the play. They have this weekend and next weekend. It closes next weekend. It's been going on, though, for the last 4 weeks now. Really great. I mean, talk about a play that talks about affection and sex and relationships and who's friends. And that play definitely delves into all of that in all different kinds of ways. It's a dark comedy, and it's really funny. I mean, if you have a bad sense of humor like I do, it's very, very funny.
Yeah.
So that's going on right now at Big Idea Theater. And then, let's see, I also have auditions going on right now for my over 50s. People over 50, men and women, I am looking for you. I am seriously looking for you. I'm doing a really fun comedy for once. And that's going to be going up in end of April, beginning of May. But I'm doing auditions next Saturday. So not this Saturday, but next Saturday.
Where can they...
they can find all that information on my website.
Okay, website again.
Yeah, come to my website. There's a whole thing that says events, current events, or auditions. It is on my current events and auditions page. So please check it out. There's some really fun roles, and I would love to see you guys come out for this. It would be really fun. And then this Sunday, at a new arts location, it's this brand new little arts location. I'm going to be doing a reading, play reading with Glenn here at 2 o'clock, 7300 Folsom Boulevard, I think was the address. I'm going to double check it here for myself and make sure I'm not misspeaking. But it is a local playwright, Scott Charles. He's got some really fun little 10-minute plays that we're going to be doing some readings of at this event for this brand new theater, not theater, but arts center that's opening up there. So you go ahead and do something while I...
Real quick, I just put the website link to her website, so you guys could go check out what her website is, the auditions, the thing that she's got going on.
Yes.
Someone just Facebooked me. I guess they saw I was in a commercial a couple months ago for Bonnie Plumbing, so they saw that. So good job. Thank you very much, Brad. But we are actually tomorrow at 9:30, right?
Yes.
We are going to be practicing tomorrow at 9:30. Fun stuff going on. Now, real quick. Speaking of, and I know we were going to talk about, we'll briefly talk about it. We're going to end with Fragile Things again, But I briefly want to talk about, we're going to do a show on this, folks. The division in Sacramento specifically, but the division all over the place between theater and film, theater actors and film actors, and some combined. But what do you think, in your mind, in your experience, and in your thoughts, why is there a division amongst those two? Yeah,
well, they're two very different types of storytelling, and I think that people who are more inclined to do film, they like the way they can tell the story in that format versus people who are on stage. I've also heard a lot of people who do film, they talk about the time it takes to do a play versus the time it takes to do a film. And it is different time commitments as well. When you do a stage performance, you are rehearsing for several weeks, and then you're doing the show for several, sometimes up to several weeks. And of course, if you're on Broadway, you're doing it for like practically the rest of your life. So,
right.
But I mean, it's two different forms of storytelling. And I think because some people find that it's an easier way to tell a story filmically for themselves or theatrically for themselves. And I think right there it comes down to just a personal how you process information and how you like to tell a story. But you know, I've often found that there's this weird sort of like a film actor kind of snubs a theater actor and vice versa. And that one I've always had a hard time understanding because it is two totally different techniques. And they both require a lot of practice and a lot of effort. And, you know, they're both extremely important ways to tell your story, which is one of the reasons that with Fragile Things for me that I've started it off as a play, but I know I want to transfer it to film, and I think it will transfer.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
I do want to transfer it to film. And, you know, I'm hoping that in the transfer that we can see this story come to life in this new way. But yeah, it is a very interesting division, and I still struggle with sort of following what the snobbery is about on either side, you know, to use, and maybe that's not the best word in the world to use, but
no, it's
I've
absolutely,
seen it, you know, firsthand so many times, and it always confuses me because I think both are so vitally important. You know, it's like turning up your nose at people who write books. Why?
Right.
We're all storytellers, all of us, and it takes different skill sets to tell those stories in these different ways. So, and I think we all respect that. But when we start feeling like we're in our own little niche, in our own little environment, it's like, well, I'm superior to this other format. And I don't know if it's an ego thing, or I don't know.
Well, Allison says, exactly. Well, Allison is one of the actors that does both.
Yes.
It's just different people, different conversations that you hear, all different stories. One of the shows that I'm going to do here in the future, I'm going to have a stage actor, I'm going to have a film actor, and it's not going to be a debate, it's not going to be an argument, it's going to be legitimate questions for each side.
Right.
And it is like the time commitment, it's like with the play. We all show up at a place, we practice, and or we rehearse, and we do all of these things. There's different steps that are accompanied by that, and it elevates, and there's a lot of time, and then when you're not there, you still have to do your own
your homework.
Your homework. And a lot of times in film, you get a script, and they'll be like, okay, we'll see you on set, you know, in 2 weeks, and you don't really, for the most part. I've heard directors say, this ain't no damn play, we don't rehearse. And they don't. They might do like a run through on set, but they don't rehearse and whatnot. And you have to
I think I'm sorry.
No.
I think what it is with film is that they're trying to capture that initial moment you have when you're reacting to something. Whereas when you're doing stage, you have to distill all of that down to remember what that moment is and repeat it over the course of the run of the show.
Right.
Whereas when you're doing a film moment, it is just that moment, and you don't necessarily, you will repeat it in your takes, however many of those there are, but you won't come back to it. Once you've done filming, you're filming that day, that scene is now done. It is over with. That part of telling that story
exactly.
is over with.
See ya.
So you can you kind of just go, okay, moving on to the next thing. Whereas with a stage production, you have to tell the story from beginning to end and feel that first moment, capture that first moment that got caught on film. If you were doing a film, you have to keep repeating it to tell the story every night that you tell the story.
Right.
So it is. I think those two things make it very different.
Allison says, yes, doing sketch comedy, theater, dramatic reading, short films, and of course, Fragile Things, the next 2 months. I enjoy many acting mediums, but some actors strictly stick to only one. Mm-hmm. I will say this. When I was brought on this play, and I mentioned that to you, and I've mentioned it, this play scares me because as a film actor, I could be like, okay, if I messed up, we'll just do another take. Right. Stage, no second take.
You have one chance to tell that particular set of people your story. You don't get to tell that set of people your story a second time. You get the one shot, the one night. That's what you get.
Right. And then with the script on film, usually if there's a line, and if you say the line and you might miss a few words or add a few words, the director might go, oh, that sounded good, or that's this and that, or play. The writer specifically writes those words for a specific freaking reason, and you need to say those words exactly. Mm-hmm. And it's not that they're being a jerk about it. It's that there's a reason for each word the way that it is written. Yeah. And there was I get stumped on one of these lines, and I might put a Y, I, instead of just I or whatever. Mm-hmm. The Y is not written. The Y does not need to be there, or I might transparent 2 words. And what Elise does, and not in a mean way, mind you.
I'm not mean.
That she says, okay, Jason, you said this, and this is what it says. So there's differences even in that aspect.
Yeah, so with also, I think what it is too is that when you're doing a stage play, the director and the writer are also the editor. And when you're doing film, you have all these different takes, and then you take it to the editor and you make the story. You create the story that way.
Yeah.
So you're giving the actor all the opportunities to have all these different moments. But when you're doing the stage, you've played all those different moments, and then the director finally says, "Okay, this is the final version that I want." So they are in essence editing it, and then saying, "Okay, now here's what I'm going to present." Which is why I feel like in some ways you're watching. You are. When you do theater, you're watching a live movie.
Yes,
because the whole package has now been done for you and then put in front of you. It's just been done in a different medium.
Matthew says even the text side of both is much different, including the verbiage.
Yeah.
Allison, the best tool I have for stage is improv, just in case something doesn't go as planned. Yeah. And I will say, I'll plug this cat, Charlie Holiday. Charlie Holiday has been in theater and film for like 127 years. Yeah. And he has a workshop every Tuesday night, an improv workshop. So that is, it's very good to do. So we've got 2 minutes left on the show, ladies and gentlemen. Last question to you, Elise.
Sure.
Fragile Things opens up March 2nd at...
The Uli Theater, which is 2007 28th Street. It's right on the corner there of T and 28th in Midtown Sacramento. It's a little tiny space. It's a 35-seat theater, which is why we keep telling you guys to get your tickets. That's only 35 seats.
Yes.
So, and they go
very intimate, and I love that.
Yeah.
What is the one thing that you want people, if you had just like the one little thing that you can say, I want you to get blank out of Fragile Things? I know it's hard to narrow down.
I want you to get a sense of your own closure from this show with whatever grief or guilt you've been dealing with. That's what I hope for you if you come see this show. Yeah.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate you guys watching the show, listening to the show, and continue to comment after we're done. You guys can still go rewatch the show, share it, tell your friends about it, continue to comment. I'll go back in and comment. But, without you guys watching this show, we wouldn't have a show. And I appreciate it. And I really want to thank you for coming on and laying out everything and exposing yourself like this, being transparent to everybody.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that. And, folks, we are on every single Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific time. And we are on here, well, other than when I'm doing the play, I won't be on here. So I implore you guys, anyone that's in the industry that would like to come on the show, DM me. We'll get you on the show, and we'll talk about whatever it is that's in your field. So I would like to have you back on because I know there's a plethora of things that we need to. That's a word of the day, folks. Plethora. So, folks, one more time, go to the link in this feed here. Buy your tickets because they will go fast. This is Elise Hodge with Glenn Spellman. This is Cellar 13 Films. Chips, dips, films, and scripts. We will see you next Friday. Peace out. I love you guys.
Bye.